When the Egyptian civilization lost after the influence of Greek and Rome, and when the hieroglyphics was no longer understood in Egypt, there are people who took this wisdom and spread out throughout the world. So one type of people was Nabateans, who built the Petra in Jordan and Al-Ula in Saudi Arabia. So what the speciality of them was, they carved resonant chambers inside Petra and the Al-Ula, which still exist today. And most of the chambers were what the Egyptians did. These were the resonance chambers for creating resonance in that building, so that a person who goes inside and sits and meditate and contemplate inside the resonant chamber, they can listen to the vibrations of their brainwave, heartbeat and breathing in an amplified way. By listening to this amplified resonance of their vital signs, they could bring coherence in their mind, body and energy. And they represented mind wandering as Seth, a personification of mind wandering as Seth. So if your mind is not in control, the Seth, which is mind wandering, can pluck out the eye of Horus. Horus is the representation of mindfulness, and if Seth is not in control, it will pluck out the eye of Horus, and it can even kill Osiris, and Osiris is the representation of consciousness. So what it tells us is that if your mind wandering is not in control, it will destroy your ability to be conscious, self-aware, and it will Hi, I am Jamaludheen. I am a consciousness researcher. Today we are trying to understand brainwaves or EEG to access consciousness, like how the ancient Egyptians did. What if the ancient Egyptians had deep understanding about consciousness, and what if we could now, with modern tools like EEG, not only understand but see and measure the wisdom they promoted about consciousness. So today we will be seeing how we can explore the insights from EEG and use the portable EEG device like Muse and the mind fitness system to document our consciousness journey. I will share my experience of developing mind fitness, a modern neuroscience tool inspired by the ancient Egyptian wisdom, on how to do real-time mental health assessment using brainwaves, and how to train mind using biofeedback. What is brainwaves, or what is EEG? The term EEG is the full form is electroencephalography. It is a method of measuring the brainwave activity in its frequency bands. So EEG is actually the electrical activity in the brain when it performs its function. So any function in the brain, actually it's a communication between two neurons, the cells of the brain, and when the two neurons communicate each other, there is a electrical discharge happening. So this minute electrical discharge, which is even smaller than a normal remote batteries, and when billions of neurons in our brain communicate, they create a voltage difference. EEG devices are capable of detecting the changes in these electrical signals and can find the frequency at which, or the power at which these electrical voltage changes. So by understanding this electrical difference in the brain from the region, or what is the power at which each frequency is happening in the brain, we can understand what is happening in the brain. EEG is a very non-invasive, because we are not doing anything into the brain. We are just measuring what the brain sends as a signal. It's a very cost-effective technology which is available for common man, and it can give you real-time monitoring as well, because whatever happening in the brain, it sends the signal real-time, and it's a real-time access into your working of your brain or your mind. One of the most prominent EEG device, which is consumer grade, which is available for everyone to use, and which is specifically designed to use by people who want to monitor meditation, was Muse device, which was launched almost 10-12 years before. So I have been a customer of Muse from the beginning, and I've been trying to compare my mental health practices and my mind through various ways, and tried trial and error for last 7-8 years with Muse device. And it's an affordable device for personal use. So many biohackers like me been trying to understand the brainwave, have been trying Muse devices to connect and understand the brainwaves. What is the speciality of Mind Fitness System? Mind Fitness System is a system which I developed from my own experience of playing with the brainwaves and understanding subjective experiences, compared with the ancient wisdom of Egypt. So I had a very traumatic experience in my college days. I had a near-death experience, after which my mind was working very differently from other people. So I have to heal my issues, and I was trying to understand my mind through available psychologists and psychiatrists then, but many times I couldn't connect with what they were telling. So I started intense meditation and following up mindfulness practices. So my deep research into what is mind, what is my consciousness. I wanted to understand what is consciousness, and how did I experience a near-death experience where I had a tunnel vision, where I experienced outer body, which a normal person would experience in near-death. So it shattered my mind, and I had to rebuild my mind. And one of the best thing happened after that was I became a regular meditator and a mindfulness practitioner, and it gave me so much understanding about the mind, which I documented using EEG devices, and I was able to understand deeper insight about EEG, which is normally not understood in the scientific field. So I will be sharing some of it today. So the Mind Fitness System is actually the unique aspect of Mind Fitness System is Mind Fitness System is the first to see the brain waves according to mind function. Traditional approach towards brainwave is we try to understand the brainwaves according to alpha, beta, gamma, theta, delta, etc. by understanding the specific frequency bands. So what I understood from my subjective experience and comparing it with my meditation data, and comparing it to the subjective experience as mentioned in the ancient scriptures, was there is in the normal classification of alpha, beta, gamma, the brainwave frequency range has overlappings, and it is not specified enough that what is alpha, what does alpha does, and what does beta does, and what does delta does in the mind, or what does it associate with. So I tried to compare my EEG data with what is mentioned in the ancient spiritual scriptures. So the fascinating discovery what I found was I was able to understand what are the major functions of the mind, and the beautiful classification of mind in the ancient scriptures fascinated me and gave me an insight that they always talked about 7 dimensions of mind. So from EEG data, I was able to understand that major 7 frequency bands are the main function of the mind. So I would explain. The first major function of the mind we use for is thinking. So when we think in a coherent way, the brainwave frequency band is shows a different rhythm. When we think or when we overthink, it has a different features for it. And the next I noted was cognition. So the mind function cognition has a specific frequency band, and it is very different from what we have been understanding as beta, gamma, etc. But it's a very specific frequency which is visible and which is different from other mind functions. So by this trial and error, I was able to understand for major mind functions like thinking, cognition, emotion, attention, sensation, feeling, intuition, and energy. So these dimensions were the most of the spiritual scriptures discussed the dimensions of consciousness, 7 chakras, or some explained, some other spiritual scriptures have explained 9 dimensions of consciousness, some have told 12 dimensions of consciousness. So by understanding this classification and what specific frequencies relate with the subjective experience, by trial and error I was able to build the mind fitness system, which can make for the first time a real-time mental health assessment. So if you connect the Muse EEG device and connect with the mind fitness system, it can decode the brain waves according to these mind functions which I explained now, and can understand, for example, how is thinking happening in the mind. So is the thinking coherent, or it is incoherent, or it doesn't have any mental health conditions like overthinking, etc. So this provides a very actionable insight which modern science is trying to understand. So it gives you how the mind works, how efficient is mind working, what are the states in the mind, and what are the mental health conditions in the mind. So by understanding all these insight, it gives a very detailed view of how a person's mind is working based on his brainwave. This is the mind fitness system, which is used for real-time mind assessment and training, which is inspired by ancient wisdom of consciousness from ancient Egypt. So in this, the speciality as we discussed is we can see the brain waves according to mind functions. As we were able to understand the brainwave frequencies associated with each mind function, we can real time see the mind functions in the brainwave by classifying it as per the mind functions like thinking, cognition, emotion, attention, etc. So if you look here, this is how the brainwave frequency associated with thinking was happening. So when the session was started, it had a very high power, and it became lower and became a stable mind. So by looking only into the thinking, we will not understand what is happening in the mind. But if you look into how was it functioning, how much percentage time it was wandering, how much it was unstable, how much time it was keeping the order in the mind, that is how we can see how a mind function works properly. So this idea of looking into the brain wave, specifically mind function, according to how it is wandering, how is its stability, and how is the order, was inspired from the ancient Egyptian method. So they in their scriptures mentioned that the first thing that we should control in the mind is we should have proper control on the mind wandering. And they represented mind wandering as Seth, a personification of mind wandering as Seth. So if your mind is not in control, the Seth, which is mind wandering, can pluck out the eye of Horus. Horus is the representation of mindfulness, and if Seth is not in control, it will pluck out the eye of Horus, and it can even kill Osiris, and Osiris is the representation of consciousness. So what it tells us is that if your mind wandering is not in control, it will destroy your ability to be conscious, self-aware, and it will destroy your mind. And that is exactly what is visible in the brainwaves as well. So the next point that I understood from ancient wisdom is they represented Amun as the personification of stability, and the same thing was there in the Quran as well. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. So it is actually asking, oh, that one which is stable. So the stability of the mind, which is what brings you into calmness. So if you can avoid mind wandering, the next skill that you need to learn subjectively and bring into your mind's experience is trying to become stable and still in mind functioning. So if you can bring stability in the mind, it is a added advantage of achieving coherence in the mind. So when I understood that, we can see here in the initial stage the mind was working with too much power, and when we see that there was a lot of wandering happening in the initial stages. So but after trying to bring stability in the mind and avoid mind wandering, the thoughts started building a stability in its brainwave frequency. So that is how we can understand that initially it was working in a high power in an incoherent way by wandering, but later it built coherence. That is exactly what we can learn from here as well. So if you look into timeline, one major thing which was affecting the mind was breach of order. So initially it had too much breach of order, and the mind was absolutely beyond its keeping order. That is why the thinking was working beyond its power, like it was breaching other functions of mind. That's what you can understand here. And by because of that breach of order, it was too much incoherence. Then later the breach was brought into the right order in the mind. So the third feature which I understood from the ancient wisdom is if you build control of your mind wandering, the second feature is you should build stability in the mind and achieve stillness, and you should keep your mind in order. There is order at which each mind function should work. So in the brainwave frequency range associated with mind functions, there is a specific range between particular frequency numbers at which it should be thinking. If the thinking breaches that frequency range, it starts working in a frequency range which is beyond the other functions. That means you are thinking in a high power which is affecting the overall working of the mind. So that is what exactly we can see here, which means the breach of order. So by understanding these three features, how was mind wandering happening, how is the stability happening, and how is the breach of order happening, we can understand the efficiency of mind. The mind fitness system, which is the first to emulate what the ancient Egyptians understood through the subjective experience, by understanding the how much wandering, how much stability, and how much breach of order is happening in the mind, is a fantastic scientific tool to understand the mind. So how the ancient Egyptians were able to understand this specific neuroscientific aspect is what fascinated me further. So through my research, what I understood was they were the masters of building resonance chambers. If you look into their pyramids, into their temples, what we can see were most of the structures they built were resonance chambers. So these chambers were used to as a meditation or a consciousness measuring tool. So if you go into if you go into the Luxor temple, if you go into major temples in the ancient Egypt, there are deep chambers inside the temple, which was actually like a niche, and each niche was specifically for some particular purpose. So for example, there is a city called Saqqara, and Saqqara is actually in the Quran there is a word called zikr, and zikr means self-awareness. So Saqqara was the capital of wellness in the ancient Egypt for developing self-awareness. So there is a city called Abydos, which was the city of nurturing consciousness. So throughout the ancient Egypt, they were creating temples specifically for specific purposes. When the Egyptian civilization lost after the influence of Greek and Rome, and when the hieroglyphics was no longer understood in Egypt, there are people who took this wisdom and spread out throughout the world. So one type of people was Nabateans, who built the Petra in Jordan and Al-Ula in Saudi Arabia. So what the speciality of them was, they carved resonant chambers inside Petra and Al-Ula, which still exist today. And most of the chambers were what the Egyptians did. These were the resonance chambers for creating resonance in that building, so that a person who goes inside and sits and meditate and contemplate inside the resonant chamber, they can listen to the vibrations of their brainwave, heartbeat and breathing in an amplified way. By listening to this amplified resonance of their vital signs, they could bring coherence in their mind, body and energy. So that is the purpose of these resonant chambers. All these wisdoms are still there in its temples, in its scriptures, like the Book of Dead. And in reality, the Book of Dead is actually called the Book of Coming to Flow. And the fascinating thing is that that is exactly what the Quran also tried to do. So Quran is actually, the word Quran itself means in the root Arabic to read your vital signs or your vibration and understand your consciousness. So once I was able to know its pure message of Quran and compare and understand its link with the ancient Egypt, I was able to develop these techniques as a scientific tool, as mind fitness. When the Egyptians civilization died out by their own problems, like they were moving far away from their practices, the Greeks followed this and they developed their own way of awakening consciousness that we can see in the Greek mythology. And when the Greeks were losing their influence from the reality of understanding consciousness, the Rome took over it, and the Rome also had this mythology and their way of teaching it. And this wisdom was spread out throughout the world, and even in India we can see this particular pattern of these messages. What we can do right now is we should learn how to use the mind in its proper way, in its coherent way, how to become an awakened being with a proper mind, with coherent body and coherent energy. That is the only way to awaken consciousness of the human beings. And the solution is to understand the inner working of the mind in a proper way. What I was able to build with mind fitness, once I understood the wisdom of subjective experience of mind wandering, stability, and the importance of keeping order in the mind from ancient Egyptian wisdom. And there are thousands of other wisdoms as well, which uh, which which can give immense data and knowledge to modern neuroscience, and how we can awaken the mind, how we can use the mind to its coherent way. If we could understand the ancient Egyptian wisdom as they understood, and with the modern tools like EEG, FNIRS, and all other uh, fantastic tool, the human beings can evolve into a coherent civilization, and which can bring unity, and it can change the life altogether. So the way the human beings live now is not coherent. They are destroying everything, because if you look throughout the world, the most problems in the world are because the human beings lost their understanding of how to use their own mind. This modern technology, and if you can use the ancient wisdom and combine both, it will definitely change the life of each and every human being in the world. And I think there is no other way in the world to save ourselves from destroying the earth and destroying the whole human civilization as a whole, other than to awaken the consciousness of each being and become the awakened being, which is the purpose of actually the universe itself. If you find my journey of building mind fitness and accessing the ancient wisdom interesting, please try to subscribe and follow my channel. Let me know how you can connect with these ideas in the comment, and share your thoughts and experiences in the comment. And if you want to try out mind fitness system, you can visit mindfitness.app, and if you have a Muse EEG, you can try out the mind fitness system. And as I said, just imagine if the ancient Egyptians could build such a beautiful art and culture and sustain their culture for 4,000 to 5,000 years, which I think still is one of the most sustained civilization for 4,000 years in the earth. So we, the modern civilization, we are just 250 years old, and we are so much advanced in the external world, but we are not mastered our inner workings and inner mind. So if you can understand the ancient wisdom with our modern technology, I think that could be the game-changing moment for whole human consciousness. So I hope this video gives you a understanding about how our mind works and how it can be replicated in a modern neuroscience tool. And thank you for being with me. We will see you in the next video.